welcome to the Allison Loves Math podcast. I'm super excited to introduce today's guest, Kabo Sekoele. She is an online math tutor all the way from South Africa. She studied civil engineering until discovering that her true passion was helping students with math anxiety. So she tutors students in 5th through 7th grade in math, and she loves to work with students from all over the world. And I'm super excited to have you here today, Kabo.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited, I'm nervous, I'm everything, but thank you for having me.
Well, I'm super excited to talk with you today about growth mindset, because I know you are all about that. You are all about, empowering students and helping them to build their confidence. Before we jump into that, though, tell me a little bit about your online math tutoring business and how you got into it.
Okay, so when I was about 18, 19, I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, where I was going. And there are other things in my life that took priority that I wanted to make sure were being done. So I needed to make sure that I had time for that. So I needed to have a career that would give me the time for things like that. And so I decided to go for civil engineering. But although I did well in it, I realized that it was not what I wanted to do, and it wouldn't help me fulfill my purpose, if I could put it like that. So I thought to myself, what is something that I could do that could help people and that would give me more time to focus on the things that I really, truly care about and that are really important to me? And online math tutoring came to the fore. So that's how I started, and I've been doing it ever since.
No, that's very cool. I love that too. I tutored math for a long time after college, or not after college, in college, actually starting in high school. But I felt the same way. One, tutoring math is so rewarding, right? And it also gives you time for other things. There's, I don't know, it's up there. One of my favorite career options.
I agree.
All right, so let's talk about growth mindset. I guess for any parents who are listening, who are not familiar with it, can you maybe start by sort of explaining what growth mindset is and why it's important for kids who are struggling in math?
So in general, growth mindset is the understanding that you can develop your brain, you can develop your talents, and that there is growth that can be developed whatever area in your life. So when you understand that and when you have that mindset and perspective, you start developing that mindset, you start growing yourself in the most possible way, in the best ways that you can. But it all starts with having that understanding and that mindset that you can develop different areas in your life. It all starts there. So really, that's the basic definition, is understanding that each and every area of your life can be developed and improved upon.
Yes. And it's especially important for math, right? Because so often parents realize this in other aspects of your life, right? I mean, we all understand that, you improve in reading, right? As you practice, and same thing with sports. But oftentimes parents forget that just in terms of math, sometimes they have like a growth mindset when it comes to everything else, but forget about it with
That's
math.
true. That's definitely true. And I think that is the starting point. Math is the starting point for growth mindset. It was for me, because when you realize that something this difficult can be improved, then you realize that other areas in your life can be improved, like your character, your everything about you, your personality can be developed, the manner in which you speak can be developed. So when you see that something as difficult as math, especially when you're a child, the most difficult thing that you have in life is math. So when you see that, oh, that can be improved, then other areas in your life don't become that much of a challenge, because you know that you can improve on it.
Yes, I love that. That is such a good point, right? If math is the ultimate challenge, right, for students, then realizing that they can improve in that really teaches them that they can improve in anything. And at that point, that just sky's the limit now, right? They can literally do anything if they have that growth mindset.
Exactly, precisely. I know when I told my parents that I wanted to stop civil engineering, they were a bit apprehensive. They weren't sure what I was doing, but I knew that what I wanted to do can succeed. And I wouldn't have that kind of mindset if I didn't have growth mindset. And children need to have that same sort of mindset. When they see that I've overcome something, I can do it again, then nothing in life can beat them. So that's the manner in which growth mindset can really be beneficial for you, especially as you get older.
Right, right. Oh, I definitely see that. It's actually interesting. So now that you mentioned that, I remember, I was teaching as I was writing my first book, and all of the discussions about growth mindset that came from the book were actually really helpful to the students in my math class, because they're struggling with math, and it's very easy to sort of look at your math teacher, your math tutor, and just say, oh, well, you're brilliant, you just in math, right? So you get it, you don't understand, but when I was talking about the struggle that I had with writing the book, because I didn't know anything about writing books, I didn't know anything about the discipline of writing, or how to organize a book, or how much went into learning that craft. It was something brand new to me, and it all came down to growth mindset. And it all came down actually to growth mindset that I learned from majoring in math, because it was something that was so hard that I didn't know how to do. I didn't know how to succeed necessarily. I didn't see the full path forward. You just sort of keep at it and know that you'll improve, and have faith in the fact that you'll improve. And so it is weird that the math mindset helped with other things like writing the book.
Precisely,
Yeah.
exactly. I know I'm learning how to drive right now.
Oh, cool.
This is a bit off topic, but I'm learning how to drive, and it's hard. It's not as easy as I thought it would be, but I know that I can get to a point where I can drive perfectly. I
Right.
wouldn't have that if I didn't know that I can overcome difficult things. You see,
Yes.
so that's why I love growth mindset so much, because it really shows you that the sky is the limit.
Right.
Nothing is too difficult for you to overcome. So yeah, soon I will be driving perfectly.
Awesome. That's so exciting. Awesome. Well, actually, let's roll with this, because I think that it can be really helpful for parents to have different conversations, right, with their kids about growth mindset outside of math. Because especially if you're, say, a parent who has their own math anxiety, is maybe thinking about this and saying, oh, goodness, I never had a growth mindset when it came to math, right? Maybe I did for other things. But you can always talk about it in the context of other things, and then say, explain how, you didn't approach it maybe in the right way, right? You just didn't know. Yeah, I think there's a whole generation of parents that are out there who didn't, weren't taught math with a growth mindset, who were told by teachers like, you're either great at math or you're bad at it.
Exactly.
So I love the driving analogy, or story. I'm trying to think, what are some um other things that we need for that we've learned about growth, or we've used our growth mindset for? um
Well, for me, it's a lot. It's everything. I mean, not just in, the difficult challenges that I was able to overcome, but even in my life story, because when I was younger, there were a lot of things that I went through that were hard. And if I didn't think that I could grow from them, I would probably have serious anxiety and depression. But knowing that you can get yourself out of an uncomfortable situation really does help. you
yes.
know and that's the thing with me. When I'm uncomfortable, I do everything to get out of that situation, and that helps because you learn skills. And
Yes.
that's something that kids need to know, that you can take yourself out of an uncomfortable situation, but it's going to be challenging. It's not going to be easy. It shouldn't be easy, because if it's easy, you don't learn anything. But when
Yes.
it's difficult, when you push through it, you gain muscle and you grow and you have experiences, you have memories. And it's these different challenges that I went through that helped me to grow and, get experiences and have memories and just be a better person overall. So having challenges, I think it's important to understand that having challenges is not a bad thing per se. You can grow from them. You really can grow from them.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. I love that. Awesome. All right. So, um, let's see. So far, we've got, knowing what growth mindset is, right? And sharing with your kids that challenges are really important and that you can grow from them. What are some other tips that we can give to students, or to parents, right, to help their kids develop a growth mindset?
Definitely back to the challenges, viewing them as opportunities for growth. Instead of looking at something as a stumbling block, you need to see it as a gateway to something better. You
Yeah.
need to see it as, it's like opening a gate. You don't leave the gate because you're not able to open it. You try everything. You get a key, you call someone, can you open the door for me? but you want to get to a certain destination. So growth mindset helps because it forces you to open that gate and get into the road. So that's the one thing that I can give to parents is help your child understand that a challenge is an opportunity for growth.
Yes.
A challenge really is an opportunity for growth. But another tip that I can give to parents is maybe encourage your parents to see themselves in a year or in 2 years' time. Nobody is too young to set goals, because when you have a goal set in mind and you know where you want to be, you will do everything to get there. You will do absolutely everything to get there. And when you get there, the confidence builds up, the courage builds up, and you just become this incredible person with incredible character because you built yourself in your mind and you saw yourself and you fought to be that person. So that's the one thing. Encourage your child to set goals and have them actually plan them out and put them down, write them down. When they set those goals, they know what they want to achieve and they have the steps to achieving them. They become incredible people. And in the process, they develop their growth mindset. They see what's possible. And that just creates an incredible human being. And that's what I think parents want, incredible human beings out of their kids.
Yes, absolutely. Incredible human beings. And also, they want to raise kids who have the ability to dream, right? And have a vision, but not just dream, but also to be able to find a path. What's the game plan to get there, right? How can you plan all of that out? Those are all things that we want our kids to be able to do. And I think it's so cool that you use math, right? And tutoring math as a way to help teach kids that math is like the perfect lesson for so many of these huge life lessons.
It is. Like I said, younger, I had issues with mathematics. So when I was able to overcome them, I needed guidance, obviously, because I didn't understand, why am I not getting this thing? Why can't I understand math? But when someone who had growth mindset showed me how to develop that growth mindset and showed me how to improve my grades in math, my grades started to improve, my mindset started to improve, my knowledge became better. So I needed that help and I needed that guidance. And that's why I take online tutoring so seriously, because I know what's possible and I know what it could do to kids, because children are so often taught the wrong thing. And when they fail, they think it's their fault, which then lowers the growth mindset, turns it into fixed mindset.
Yeah.
But when they are guided and they're shown what they need to learn to improve, then their mindset grows. They they feel more intelligent. They grow in confidence, all because they started with this thing that seems insignificant, which is mathematics. So please, if you're a parent, encourage your child to struggle through it, because the growth is exponential when the ball rolls, but they need the guidance. So if they're struggling, help them in some way personally, or find someone who can help them. That really does help.
Right. So was that the turning point for you? You had math anxiety as a kid, and it was working with somebody who had a growth mindset and encouraged you to sort of or showed you the way to have one? Is that sort of what made the difference?
Yeah, it definitely was. It was having someone who taught me math principles instead of methods, who taught me the foundation, the important and elementary things. When I got those, and when I understood those, then I was able to develop. But that couldn't have happened if he didn't believe that I could grow. Otherwise, he would have left. So he had growth mindset, and he knew that I could improve. So that just changed everything for me. And I thank him to this day for what he did, because he paved the way for my life now with the online tutoring. He really did. So I appreciate that.
That's very cool. And you pointed out something actually even more interesting, which is the sort of the foundations in math, right? And a lot of times when we have math anxiety or struggling in math, there are underlying gaps in foundation, right, that are causing the mistakes, causing students not to understand something. And it's a lot of work, extra work, right, on top of the homework and the regular studying, to go back and strengthen those foundations. And I think that's, again, where the growth mindset comes in, right? If you're going to get through that extra work, acknowledge and go back to things perhaps in years past that you need to learn, having that growth mindset, having that belief that it will make a difference, that you can learn it and it will make a difference is really important in the grand scheme of raising your math grade.
I agree, exactly. That's why I tutor kids from 5 to 7. I used to tutor grade 12, grade 11. I used to tutor everything. But I decided to hone in where the problem actually begins. And I believe that prevention is better than a cure. And children start struggling when they're in 5th grade, 6th grade, and 7th grade. That's where the issues start. That's where fractions start coming in. That's where percentages, decimals start coming in. Then that's when they start getting shaky. So I focus my efforts on helping them there before they have to start learning the foundations and they're already in grade 12.
Yes.
That's normally what they need. That's all what the older kids need, just to be taught the foundations again. But because they don't know that, they're not going to focus on that.
Right.
That's why I prefer to tutor kids within the area in which the struggles already begin. So yeah, that's why I take it so seriously there. Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why Math Tutor can be so helpful, I think, for students, at that age, but any age, because, as a parent, especially if you don't have a background in math or education, it can be very confusing, I think, to know which foundations need to be strengthened. As a tutor or a teacher, we see over and over again, there are certain mistakes that just come up all the time. But it can be sort of a shortcut sometimes to work with somebody who, already has an idea of which foundations, are going to need to be strengthened.
Definitely. I agree with that.
And I like what you're saying too, because I never really tutored much at the elementary school age. When I tutored, it was more high school. I did a lot of like SAT prep and ACT prep and stuff. And the gaps in foundations are really big by the time you get to your senior year in high school. If it started in 5th grade, right? There's a lot to catch up on at that point. And then the same thing with mindset, right? If you started having a traumatic experience in math starting in 5th grade on, right? And then you just carried that, then, sort of like you were saying, growth mindset can build exponentially. I think the same can be true in the fixed mindset, right? If you're having bad experiences and then you just keep having more bad experiences and you fixate on every time you get something wrong and you think it's because you're stupid, that builds over time. And by the time you're a senior in high school, you're at 6-7 years of feeling that way. It's really hard to undo that math anxiety, or it's harder to undo that math anxiety at that age after so long than when you're in that 5th to 7th grade time, right? When if that anxiety is kicking in, it's new, right? It's simpler to undo it at that point.
Very true. Yeah. With my students, I always make sure that because sometimes they don't want to feel like they're not listening to you. They don't want you to think that they're not improving. So they're ashamed when they get something wrong, and they get embarrassed when they don't understand a concept, even after you've spoken about it a few times. But I always make sure that they understand that that's okay. That's why I'm here. I need you to understand that you will improve. You can improve. Just because you don't understand it now doesn't mean you're incapable of understanding it. Yeah. If you couldn't improve, I wouldn't have a job today, So when they understand that, okay, it's okay to fail because it's just a stepping stone, then they ease, and then they start improving and they start getting better. Yeah. So I love growth mindset because the results, it's so beneficial for any young person, and it just turns you into something else. It just turns you into something much greater than the average person when you develop that growth mindset. It really does a lot for you.
Yes, definitely. I think you touched on something that, a number of the math professors that I've interviewed on the podcast so far have talked about, in terms of, increasing student sort of engagement and motivation and success. And a lot of that comes back to having a safe classroom where students feel like they can make mistakes, where they feel like they can ask questions and be wrong and not be embarrassed by it, not feel stupid by it. And so, I don't know, the tutoring is very powerful when you're working with somebody who helps students to feel like that, because they might not necessarily be getting that in their math class. We've got a large variety of math teachers out there, right? And I don't know, a lot. Anyways, just I think with any subject, right? You never know who you're going to have as a teacher in the classroom, right? And so I think it's just, if you don't have that in the classroom, it's helpful to find, whether it's a friend, a parent, a family friend, a tutor, just somebody who can help your child to, you know, develop that growth mindset, to be able to make mistakes is really important.
It's true. Yeah. And also, you know, in the classroom, it's harder to stand up and say, I don't understand this. I don't get it.
True.
Because everybody's looking at you.
Yeah.
You know, everybody has this mindset that if you don't get it, you're not intelligent. That's fixed mindset already right there. Everybody has that at a young age. But when you are in a safe environment, so it's easier to develop that safe environment one-on-one, or even if it's a smaller classroom, it's much easier to develop that safe haven for you to make mistakes. It's very important for your growth, very important for your growth, because you grow from those mistakes. Being perfect all the time doesn't take you anywhere. It really doesn't, because we're not perfect.
Right.
And that's another thing, actually. That's another tip, is understanding your limitations. Help your child understand their limitations. They're not perfect. They shouldn't expect to get everything right, because they will not. And when they understand that, then they feel more empowered to continue, because, okay, that was bound to happen. I'm imperfect, but I'll grow from it. You know, so being a perfectionist is not, it doesn't help kids. If you're a perfectionist as a parent, please tone it down, because that can impede on their growth. It really can. But when you help them to see that mistakes are fine, then they feel more comfortable in making those mistakes, and they recognize that they're not perfect.
Right, right. Yes, gosh, the perfection thing can really, really hurt students. I remember I had a student once in my class, it wasn't for tutoring, but she would get such anxiety over starting homework because she couldn't get it all perfect. You know, it's just like, it, you know, starts easy and it gets harder, but she was really stuck on those harder problems. And so she didn't even want to start it because she was so afraid of not being able to finish it. And we actually had to have multiple conversations about, you're just aiming to get 80% of your homework done. And I would tell her, I don't want to see the last 20%. Like, I don't even want you to start, like, on purpose, because if she was fixated on the 20% she couldn't get, she wouldn't even start, you know? And so it's like, get to that 80%, you know, aim for imperfect. Imperfect is so much better than not even starting, you know?
Exactly. Definitely.
And then the follow-up to that is, we were able to get to the last 20%, but we had to like deal with the other part first, you know?
Exactly. You had to develop that mindset.
Yes.
That's where it starts. That really is where it starts.
Exactly. Cool. All right, let's see. Other tips?
I think as well, helping children to see that, like we said, challenges are opportunities, and that being imperfect is perfectly fine. But with parents in particular, please be okay with your child getting bad grades, because that's honestly where it starts. That is where it all starts. But when you encourage them to keep going, that's when the growth happens. With me, in order for me to actually improve on my grades, I had to sit on a table every evening. I had to take my textbook, open it up, and read the concept, not understand it, and I would cry for hours. I literally sat there and cried and screamed and yelled at my mom, and my mother was just saying, continue, carry on. I'm not gonna help you, figure it out. Because she would be honest, I don't understand it either. So you need to sort it out. You're the one that's writing the exam. So she would make me sit there and cry for hours. But after crying, I would look at the textbook again and I'd say, oh, wait, is that what it was? And that's it. So encourage them to push through, encourage them to have endurance, you know, keep persevering through the thing that you're struggling with, because when you overcome it, nothing will stop you. You know, it's about, it's understanding that the grass is green on the other side. You just have to get to the other side. And getting to the other side will be a challenge, but you can get there. So please encourage them to have endurance, because it will be hard, it will be challenging, but it's well worth it.
Yes. Encourage them to be like Kabo's mom.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yep.
I love it. No, but, and you also bring up a really good point about just how big the challenge can be at first, right? Because I think when you've fallen behind on something, when you don't know what you don't know, right? Because if you have those gaps in foundations, but you don't even know what they are, right? And when you're already feeling overwhelmed about something, it's a huge, losing my words here. It's a huge challenge, right? And if you really think about how difficult it is, and I'm picturing you right at the table crying over your math book, and I know, and there's so many students out there who do that, right? And it's just, you have to, when you're crying over the math at the table, they have to be able to come back at some point and pick themselves up, right? So it's not, we're talking about having growth mindset. It's not necessarily that they never cry, right? And that they never get overwhelmed and want to give up for a moment, right? Because we all have those moments. We all have those moments in so many different things where we just want to give up. It's a matter of picking yourself up after that, right? And coming back to it and trying again after you've had those moments of wanting to give up.
Exactly. That's where the actual growth happens.
Yeah.
It's not when they get the 90% in math. It's when they struggle through it. That in that period, that's what builds up their character. That's what makes them people,
Yes.
good, intelligent, smart people. When they develop qualities that make them incredible people. So they need that. They need that challenge in order to be something that is worth something.
Yes. Yes.
So I believe that period where I was crying and trying to figure it out, it helped me a lot. I needed that. And it's okay for kids to have that. So parents shouldn't try and eliminate that. They shouldn't try and numb the kids by maybe stopping them from going through that and blaming the teachers when the grades are not improving. Don't try and make them feel better. Force them to struggle through it, because that's what makes them people. And that's the qualities that they need to develop for later on in life. It's that endurance period that they need.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I really like that as a parenting tip, right? Just a reminder that our job is not to make things easier for the kids, right? To just make them happy and make everything easy. Our job is to, raise kids who are resilient,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Very cool. All right, let's see. Before we go, anything else, or did we covered a lot?
We covered a lot.
Were there any other tips that we missed before we go?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that sums it up brilliantly, making sure that you're not a perfectionist, helping your children to carry on and be persistent, because the results are always worth the struggles, and just viewing challenges in the right way, having the right mindset about them. Those are the foundations of growth mindset. And when kids have that, they become unstoppable. And every parent wants their kid to be unstoppable. So
yes.
Make the ground fertile for them to have growth mindset, and everything falls into place afterwards.
Perfect. Oh, I love that. It's a wonderful way to end.
Yeah.
So before we go, can you, I guess, tell us where people can find out about you and about your work and get in touch with you in case somebody has a 5th to 7th grader who could use some math tutoring?
So you can find me on my website, gabothemathtutor.com. Sorry, I lost it for a second there. gabothemathtutor.com. You can set up a free consultation with me. And I cannot wait to meet any parent who wants to help their child in this mountain. I cannot wait to help kids to see that it's not a mountain at all. You can overcome it. But other than that, if you want some of my free content, you can go onto YouTube, because there I release tips for parents who have children that are struggling in math, and I give them advice on how to help their kids develop their grades. So if you want a consultation, just my website, but if you want some free content, you can go over to YouTube.
Perfect. And if you are listening to this podcast or watching the recorded video on YouTube, I'll make sure to leave the link to Kabo's website in the show notes. So you can find it there as well. Jump on over and say hi to her. And thank you so much for being here today, Kabo. This was a wonderful conversation. I think that you are doing amazing things with students, helping to build a world that loves math and is succeeding in math. And I appreciate your work so much.
Thank you so much, Allison. This is incredible. Even though I haven't known you for that long, I love you. And I appreciate what you try and do, because loving math is hard, but you encourage people to do that. And that is an incredible mission. So thank you for what you do as well. And thank you for having me.
Oh, cool. Thank you so much. And if you were listening to this, thank you so much for listening today. I will see you in the next interview. Bye.